Okay, books out, please. We're on page 1, and we are going to finish off our introduction today. Phones away, please. We got lots and lots to do. And we're going to discuss a very unusual aspect of Shabbat today. And this will really finish and close off introduction very nicely. Very, very, very nicely, hopefully. And again, this is all the introduction. A lot of stuff we've looked at and we'll look at today, we're going to double click on later on in the semester in order to see in a lot more detail with more meforshim with the sources. Okay, so let's do a quick summary because we're going to close it up. We're going to, it's like a triangle we created, okay? This is how I look at this course. Yeah? Well, there's many triangles. We're going to see a circle as well. So one aspect of the triangle we said was the idea of Shabbat being a holy time. Yeah? Which we spoke about. Shabbat being the holiest time. We'll discuss that later on in more detail, but we already looked at it, yeah? And then we spoke a lot about Shabbat as a holy, is related to a holy place, right? It's a holy place, yeah? And those two connect. Right? I mean, you wouldn't have thought so. Why would a time be connected to a place? Right? Because a time is eternal. Places are, physical places are transitory, you know? That's how we see it. What the Western world is the other way around. First, time is eternal, and places come and go. You know, buildings get built up, they get smashed down. So we said the holiest time is Shabbat, and the holiest place is the Beit HaMikdash. Okay? And we said, well, there's a strong link between two of them. Yeah? So what we're going to do now is find a third aspect to this, which is rather unexpected, but pretty fascinating, and is really going to set us up for the rest of the course. So by the end of the course, you know, I've taught this course maybe, I don't know, 10 times over the years here at Stern. And I still get emails from people years later when I'll post an idea or a thought, and they'll be like, I remember from that course you said that. It kind of ties together, because Shabbat is a big part of people's lives. What do you think the third part would be? I would not have guessed this myself, by the way. What would the third part be, the trifecta of this? You get a holy time, that's Shabbat, yeah, obviously.
The objects.
We have place, which is the Beit HaMikdash, the Mishkan, or the Beit HaMikdash. So what else can we add to this?
The objects. Like tangible items.
The tangible items is the Mishkan. That was with tangible items. So you're right, but that's going to be over there. Anybody else? I wouldn't have got this. So it's actually the person. The person. You said that? Right, the person. Alright, it kind of comes out here because it's going to relate to the Mishkan, but it's going to relate to Shabbat as well. That's kind of how it all comes together. What does that mean? And it means something pretty wild, and that is people can become Shabbat. People can become Shabbat. You mean once a week? No. I mean that people who connect to Shabbat actually become Shabbat 24/7. It becomes part of their essence. They live in a world that is constantly Shabbat. And we're going to do a number of classes that are going to relate to that and the benefits and how they get to reach that level. Let's see it in the introduction over here, and then we'll dive in a little bit later to figure out what that idea even means, that a person can actually become Shabbat. So he considers this the third comparison. This is important, in your notes you should have more than 3 comparisons. We did more comparisons than the 3 he listed in the introduction, okay? So in your midterms, you'll be expected to know more than just these 3. Obviously, we looked at maybe 5 or 6. This is a 7th, okay? That's the exact number, okay? He says there's another connection. Yesh od echad shlishi, shemagbil Shabbat ol Beit HaMikdash, that connects Shabbat to Beit HaMikdash. That's a Talmud Chacham. That is the person, right? The Torah observant Jew. Talmud Chacham hu bechinat Shabbat. The Gemara tells us that a Talmud Chacham, a Torah person, yeah, a person who lives by, you know, Torah, and obviously Shomer Shabbat, has an aspect of Shabbat inside them. Now again, you don't hear this with, you don't see a person got an aspect of Sukkot inside them. You don't see a person got an aspect of Pesach inside them. I mean, they have some matzah still inside them, but the actual Pesach they don't have. We say, no, no, no. A person can be Shabbat. Very unusual, right? She'egir Rav le'ezira. think of it as sometimes it would be that a great rabbi, a person of great prestige would arrive in a city. This is proof for this. And people, and people go and visit that person. And how would they visit that person? In their finest clothes. They wear their Shabbat clothes. Why would they do such a thing? A prominent person comes to visit the town, the city, and you want to go and greet them. You don't turn up in your schlocky clothes. You put on your finest clothes. You get dressed very, very, very well. And what do? You greet them with a smile, with happiness, you know. I'm going to give you a better example. This is not my example, but it fits it so well over here. Just so you feel understand this. Once I just give you this example, then maybe we'll get better. You know, this is going to help you a lot. Imagine you got a phone call. You go back to your rooms after class, and you're ready to go to sleep, and the phone rings, and you pick it up, and it is the President of America, and they're calling you personally. Okay? You're like, hello? Like, hello, it's the President of America. You're like, yes. Like, I want you to come to the White House for a special meeting. Air Force One will be landing on Lexington Avenue in 20 minutes. You have 20 minutes. Okay? Please be ready. What's the first thing you're going to do? Okay, after updating your Facebook profile and Instagram and Twitter, which leaves you like another 3 minutes, what are you going to do? You're going to change, right? Well, first you take a shower. Okay, you're going to run, take a quick shower, because you're going to be clean, right? You want to, you know, if you're a female, you put your makeup on, and you can put your best clothes on. You get into it arrives there, everyone's watching, there's crowds of people watching, you know. You jump into the Air Force One helicopter, or whatever it's called, and they fly you off to Washington, D.C. You land on the White House lawn, door opens, and there's the president waiting at the door. Arms open, like, oh, I'm so pleased you can make it. Like, this is amazing. And you walk into the White House, and there's a whole table of delicious food, all special kosher, right? Because Jared makes sure the photos were kosher, and the Chabad came in, they kosher the whole kitchen, and you're ready to go, and everything's fantastic, and they welcome you inside, and they're like, would you like something to eat? Would you ever turn around and be like, no, I already ate, thank you? And you'd eat something. Why? Why would you try to eat something?
For respect.
Because, yeah, go on. You're not going to tell me they offer you respect. You're not really hungry. I mean, you probably are, but you're not really that hungry. But you're going to eat. Why do you eat? Out of respect for your host. Your host is like, this is the President of America, right? Or some great, whoever it is. You're going to dress well. It's their meal. They paid for it, but you're going to partake of it. By you eating the food, you are giving them respect. Now, you're going to enjoy the food because it's going to be amazing food. But that's secondary to the fact that you are being part of this amazing celebration. You get dressed up. Shabbat is the same thing. Okay? Shabbat, in many places we're going to see later on in the course, is the only area of Judaism, and it doesn't exist anywhere else, where Shabbat has a personality. We say Shabbat is coming. Right? When Shabbat is coming, right? We see the Shekhinah is here. Hashem's presence comes with the Shabbat. Right? Go out and Lachadodi, go and bring the Shabbat in. We actually give the human characteristics to Shabbat. Why would that be? Why do we do that? We don't do that with Sukkot. We don't say matzah is like a person. We don't do that. When it comes to this one particular area, we're like, we give it, actually, we actually sing. When you think about the songs we sing on Shabbat, we'll see this in a few moments, the songs we sing are about Shabbat. On the other holidays, we don't sing, oh, Pesach, Pesach, Pesach. Right? We don't do that. We talk about matzah, you know, and talk about Yisrael, but we don't talk about, when it comes to Shabbat, though, Shabbat has a personality, we refer to it like it's an actual person, an actual being. We absolutely are personifying in order to actually be it, absolutely. But we want to go on.
If you look at the entire week, as we said before, that if the person that's 24/7 being Shabbat will eventually become it.
They actually become, yeah. We have to see exactly how, but you actually do become. It ends up impacting your life completely.
So then if we know the characteristics necessary to be it, then we can better be it.
Yes. That's pretty much it. Eventually you become it. You get the characteristics. Very good. You're on fire today. Very nice. So he says, so the Talmud Chacham comes to the city, you go to the White House, you're going to dress well, you're going to put in your finest clothing, right? Why? Because the Talmud Chacham, a person who represents Torah, is like they represent Shabbat. That is the person. The person actually changes. Okay.
So why is it characteristics?
So the reason why it's within characteristics is so we can get.
We're going to see that. We're going to see that. We have to figure out. We actually give it a human characteristic. We see Shabbat and relate to it like it's a person. Actually, okay, in the end, it's going to be Hashem, basically. Hashem's going to visit, and we're related to Shabbat, and Shabbat we're going to see is one of the names of God. That's actually who we're welcoming, which you don't welcome the other holidays like you do on Shabbat. Yeah. We're on page 1. It's got the number 1 on it, top right. Bottom of the page. Okay? So he says, and that's very much like the Beit HaMikdash as well. Okay? Because the Beit HaMikdash was full of Kedusha, right? The Mishkan was full of Kedusha, the holiest place, right? The holiest place is over here. This is the holiest time. And the Jewish people, through the mitzvot and Shabbat, become the holiest people as well, right? So the Kedusha infuse them. That's why we talk about Eretz Yisrael having Kedusha, the Kodesh Kedoshim. We talk about people being Kadosh. We talk about Zman being Kadosh. Shabbat is Kadosh. So that is the connective tissue that brings them all together. Okay? So turn over the page. Let's just finish. Let him finish the thought off. And we'll see a nice, cute story. He said, so too. When we spoke about last class, how it's very, very minute and severe and strict. Everything's great details. Right? On Shabbat, everything is very detailed. The laws are so detailed. There's so many of them. And the Mishkan was very detailed. So too, people can become very detailed in their life, in their relationship, right, to Hashem, to Judaism, right? So he says, a Talmud Chacham, a Torah scholar, has to be very, very careful from making Chil Hashem. Right? We know this, right? One of the worst things we see, the worst thing that can happen, actually the worst sin is a Chil Hashem, a desecration of God's name. And so he's saying, there's a reason why, because they hold themselves up as something, and suddenly people look at every minute detail of their life. Right? How do they act? What do they say? Right? We always look at these religious people, we're like, oh, they did that, we did. Actually, they're looking at us, everyone's looking at us the same way, right? As Jewish people as well. As a nation, we get the same thing. Right? Everything we do, everything we say, where we act, in Israel, wherever it is. Right? Oh, the Jews, how did they? So too, we're held to a very, very, very very fine level of the law. It's also greatly detailed. There's details on Shabbat, there's details in the Mishkan, there's details on people as well. How do you act as an individual? Yeah. So much of the Talmud Chacham is expected to walk, shouldn't go anywhere without Torah and Tefillin. Okay, we don't do that nowadays, most people. But that was the idea, the Gemara says, because people are constantly meant to be living such a life. Okay? Okay, jump to the bottom paragraph. This is the main part. And he says like this. Now we're going to spend 2 classes on this, and this is based upon one Rashi, bottom of page 2. He says, let's take one little Nakuda Achat Shel Shabbat. Let's take one example of Shabbat Kodesh to prove this point. This is amazing. Check this out. He says, which is going to explain the essence, the Mahut Shel Shabbat. He said, look at the bold print. Kishmiagir Shabbat. When Shabbat comes, a person has to see themselves, Yudit Sarech Larot, Kemisha Kol Melachta Asura, that all your work is done. Okay? I'll say that again. When Shabbat comes, it has to seem to you as though all your work is done. That is the Rashi on Chumash, and he's quoted that Rashi. V'nisha rak avodah Hashem barach. How are you meant to feel when Shabbat enters? Right? You're not allowed to think about work. You're definitely allowed to do work. You can't write. You can't do anything. Why? Because a person has to see, as soon as Shabbat comes in, you've got to feel as though all your work is done. Now, we're going to see why that would be. It's a very unusual thing.
It's ironic, though, because all dads are stressed and, rushing.
Oh, that's before Shabbat. But as Shabbat comes in, no, Erev Shabbat for sure. Erev Shabbat is busy, people are running around. Now, that's the build-up to it. But as soon as Shabbat comes in, bang! Whatever you've created is there. Misha Torach Lefnei Shabbat, whoever prepares before Shabbat, gets to eat on Shabbat. If you prepare yourself before, you get to eat on. As soon as Shabbat comes in, it's done. There's nothing you can do. You didn't get the business deal done, you didn't shop. You're in a new status. You're in a new place. Yeah?
Would you describe Shabbat as another dimension of time?
I have to think about that. It's definitely a different time, different zman. Has a different dimension of a zman for sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. All the holidays do, but Shabbat as well. Okay. So he's like, you know, it's interesting. That means Shabbat itself changes the person, because all week we're running around doing, and suddenly we have this weird reality that we're actually seeing now in the public world for the first time. Shabbat comes because famous people are becoming Shabbat. Suddenly, boom, they're disconnected. Wherever they are, they are. It's like everything up to that point, and then they stop. He says, so too. People, no, this is very important. Listen to this. He says, so too when it comes to people all week. What's meant to happen is, check out this idea, you got to listen carefully.
Where is
Bottom of page 2. He says, so to a Talmud Chacham, their entire week changes because you're constantly meant to be living in that world. What does that mean? Constantly living on Shabbat? No, Shabbat's only once a week. But we're going to see that you can live your life with a Shabbat philosophy and understanding. And he's going to give you some examples, okay, where your world becomes at rest, okay, because Shabbat means rest. For example, let me explain what he means, and it's going to be fascinating. Look at page 3. For example, you're saying Birchat HaMazon. Okay, you finished eating, and you say Birchat HaMazon, tremendous mitzvah, Torah mitzvah to say benching after you eat. Okay, the phone rings. The phone rings. Now he wrote this when, you know, you basically had a phone in your house. Didn't even have cell phones when he wrote this. But the phone rings. You carry on. Would you stop halfway through a blessing, pick up the phone, hey, how are you? Of course you wouldn't do such a thing. He says that's the bechin of Shabbat. That's an aspect of Shabbat. Why? Because you're standing in front of Hashem. At that moment, all your work is done. You could know for sure there's a business deal that's coming through and you're going to answer the phone right now. I'm not going to do it. You're standing praying Shemona Esrei. Right? Halfway through, you get an email. Someone calls you. If you don't stop in the 1 second. Right? Why? Because I can't do that. I'm right now standing for Hashem. I can't stop interruption. It's ki'ilu kol melachtacha asuya. Where do we learn that idea out from? That's from Shabbat. Okay. Now he gives a story. It sounds a bit of an extreme story, but he says he knew someone who was about to board a plane. And the plane was going 20 minutes. He started praying. He got very into his prayers. And everything was on board, right? And they did last call. He wasn't there. They took his luggage off, and the plane took off without him. And he missed that flight. He had to catch the next flight, right? It was like a whole... So his friend asked him and said, how could you do that? He goes, well, I was in the middle of the Shemona Esrei. I couldn't stop. He goes, but you're going to miss your flight. He goes, well, where's the flight going to take me? He goes, to your destination. He goes, but I'm at my destination right now. Where I was at that point was where I was meant to be. See? It's like Shabbat. This is where I'm meant to be. The phone can ring. People can see, like, this is where I'm meant to be right now. This is my life at this moment. It's tremendous power. Like people always say to me, oh, Shabbat comes in and like you're so controlled and you're not free. He goes, actually, I'm really free. I'm not held to all the other problems of the world. Right? I can't get involved in anything. This is true freedom. I'm not held to all my, you know, other business and other obligations I have. I'm present in the moment. Okay? So the person keeps Shabbat, but Shabbat now starts to infuse the person and travel with them through the week. Not all the time. You're not expected to keep Shabbat all the time. There were some people who did actually live in such a world all the time. Right? We'll see they lived in such a reality where they were constantly in that world. There are such people. We're not at that level. Rashim Bar Yochai, we'll see later on in the course, was one of those people who was constantly in that world. He was constantly in Shabbat. Now, we can't do that. But what we can do, as we'll see, and there's a mitzvah to do this, is to prepare for Shabbat every single day. I'll say that again. There is a mitzvah to prepare and to think about Shabbat every single day. And we'll see the Gemara in a moment. But the Gemara says that a person walks around to the market. This is halacha, by the way. This isn't cute ideas. And they see a nice piece of fruit. Like, oh, that looks delicious. You know what? That's for Shabbat. That's a mitzvah. They're keeping Shabbat during the week. That is an actual mitzvah. And then the next day, they find a better piece of fruit. They're like, oh, you know what? That piece of fruit, yes, I'll eat that now. I have it for dinner now during the week, and this was for Shabbat. Oh, what a nice piece of meat, and look at those lovely shoes. Then they'll find another better pair of shoes the next day, right? One's become the Shabbat shoes, and these become the... This actually is how you're meant to remember Shabbat every single day. It's one of the 6 things you're meant to remember every single day, and Shabbat is one of them. You're meant to remember Yom Kippur every day. You have to remember Tzedakah every day. You have to remember Shabbat every single day, because your whole life ends up gearing up towards it. That is the obligation. Okay? I am in that world. So he tells a cute story, okay, about a certain wealthy guy. Okay? This is this didn't really happen, I don't think, but he's given an example. And he was a big kamtzan. You know what kamtzan is? Very stingy. Very, very stingy guy. Okay? And he was known as the wealthy, stingy man. He was so stingy, he says, that people would come and visit him on Shabbat, and he would make sure they didn't eat too much food, so he would have more food left over during the week for him and his family. That's how stingy he was. Imagine that? So the story is told about a very poor guy who comes to his table on Shabbat, and he knows about this rich guy and his little tricks. So he decides he's going to get get back on him. So he's sitting down for the meal, and the guy says, "Oh, where are you from?" to the poor man. And the poor man says, "Oh, I'm from Leipzig, a city in Europe, wherever, you know. I'm from New Jersey." So he says, "Oh, I originally come from New Jersey." He goes, "Tell me, how are the Goldbergs doing?" He says, "The Goldbergs? They're dead." "I'm sorry." "Yeah, they died." The guy jumps up, runs to the kitchen to tell his wife. While he's sitting, the poor man's sitting there, he starts to eat all the first course that had been put out. Right? Nothing for the host. The guy comes back. "I can't believe the Goldbergs. Tell me, you're from Leipzig." Right? The second course comes out. He goes, "Tell me, how are the Cohens doing?" He goes, "Cohens? They're dead as well." "What? They're all dead?" "Yes." Runs back to the kitchen. In the meantime, the poor guy eats all the second course, leaves nothing for the rich guy. He's eating all the food he wants to eat. The guy goes back. Third, final course comes out. Guy comes, goes, "My goodness, Goldberg's dead, Cohen's dead. Tell me, how are the Levies doing?" "Levies? They're dead." It's like, "What? This is crazy." He runs back to the kitchen. Eventually, the guy eats all the main food again. Right? The poor man's now full up. The guy comes back. He says, "1 minute. This doesn't sound right. All the people I knew from Leipzig, they're all dead? Right? The Cohens, the Goldberg, Levies?" He says, "Okay, I'm not from Leipzig. I've never been there. And I don't know these people. However, when I'm eating, everyone's dead." What's the idea? The idea is you get to a point, you get to a place, and this is expected of us, not just on Shabbat. Shabbat is teaching us this, that your entire life you're able to be present in one place. Okay, whether you're praying, you're involved in a conversation, you're involved in any aspect of Kedusha, whatever it is, you have to be present in that place. That is one of the secrets of Shabbat. That's what he's bringing down. This is before cell phones, by the way.
So
okay.
Like constantly think about Shabbat.
It's not only that. There's a mitzvah thing about Shabbat every single day. We're saying that a person becomes like Shabbat. You're present in the moment and you become like Shabbat. That's what he's saying. It's a wild idea. But we're going to see that by keeping Shabbat, you learn this skill. You learn to be there, and you learn the idea that when I'm in the middle of something, I'm in that world and there's nothing else because I'm standing for Hashem. You stand for Hashem on Shabbat, right? The person is always in front of Hashem, and the Mishkan was the ultimate place of being for Hashem. See that? Does that make? Are we following here?
I don't really get how it connects, to be honest.
Someone try to explain it for me. I've been through different angles over there. Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, you know it, right?
Anyone know what I'm talking about? Should we try again? Should we? Yeah, you want to give it a go?
I think basically what he's saying is that kind of when you're doing something and you're kind of, let's say, like committed, like this guy was committed to eating all the food. He was focused on one thing, and he was focused, and like he left everything else behind. Like, and like I guess like nowadays, like there's so much distractions around us, and like when we're like davening or we're like learning Torah, then we have to try to kind of separate ourselves from that like material aspect and try to focus on where we are now.
Very nicely put. So where do we learn that out? Exactly. So where do we learn that out from? He's saying Shabbat is that world. Shabbat is the ultimate place. Why? Because you are there. That's your destination. There is no one else. The world is quiet. I'm in my place. Okay, so a person becomes Shabbat. And we're going to see a lot more of this. We'll see how to acquire this. This is not going to be easy. This is not going to be easy. It wasn't easy 2,000 years ago. Not easy thousands. It's not easy today for sure. I mean, you know, how much more so in the world. Whatever my work, that's what he's saying. Whatever work I have is done. There's nothing else to be done. I'm standing for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is Shabbat. I'm done. I'm in the Mishkan. Anything else going on, I'm done.
So by becoming Shabbat, you're becoming always connected to God?
That is the idea. That is the idea. As much as you're able to be. It can't always be because you're always doing things as well. But ultimately, that's what you're going to try to do. Okay? He says this is true by the Beit HaMikdash as well. He says, look at this interesting halacha of the Rambam. So he's going to try to prove this. I know it's a little bit tricky, but it's a very nice idea. Let's say a Kohen is in the Beit HaMikdash. This is a law of the Beit HaMikdash, right? The Mishkan Beit HaMikdash. Let's say a Kohen is doing the Avodah, right, in the Beit HaMikdash, and he hears one of his relatives has died. Okay? Now, there's a law that a person whose family, one of his Sheva Krovim, 7 close family members, mother, father, brother, sister, husband, wife, child, or daughter or son, pass away, that person is no longer obligated in mitzvah, they're an ones, until that person's buried. That's halacha. Okay? This individual, however, is one exception to that rule. The Kohen in the Beit HaMikdash, when he hears a close family member has died, heaven forbid, that person has to finish off the avodah. They can't leave. Anyone else, you're working in something else, you run, you go take care of your of the deceased. Here, though, you cannot leave. He's got to finish off. Why would that be? It's the same idea. Because he's involved in one thing. The world doesn't count. Nothing else exists. I'm in Shabbat, nothing else exists. I'm Dami Shemona Esrei, nothing else. I'm learning Torah, nothing else exists. I'm in this world, nothing else exists. The Kohen's in the Beit HaMikdash, he hears this terrible news, he got to finish the avodah. Everyone else, wherever they are the rest of the world, they can leave what they're doing and run and take care of the dead person. A tremendous mitzvah, one of the greatest mitzvah. The Kohen inside the Beit HaMikdash, no. Why? Because I'm here. This is my destination. There's nothing else to be done. You finish the avodah, then you can walk out. He's forbidden just to walk out. A terrible, terrible sin. And when he leaves, he shouldn't run. He should walk out slowly. Right? So he's showing it impacts all three is impacting each other. They're all impacting each other. That's the Rambam in the laws of the Beit HaMikdash.
He's on such a high level that he can't.
It's not a high level. He's in a place. It's not a matter of level. You're in a place. This is my avodah. This is what I'm going to be doing right now. And by the way, that's, as a side point, one of the greatest gifts a person can have in this world is knowing where they are right now is what they're meant to be doing. That's one of the greatest gifts. I don't want to patronize you. I'm not that much older than you. Actually, I am now. But this is one of the greatest gifts. Doing what you're doing, so this is what I'm meant to be, this is what I'm meant to be doing. Most of frustration in life is not knowing if this is what I'm meant to be, this is what I'm meant to be doing. This is the person I'm being married to, is the job I'm meant to have, is the whatever it is the class I'm going to be taking. That's one of the greatest frustrations, right? Having doubts in life. On Shabbat, this is where I'm meant to be. I'm meant to be anywhere else. Beit HaMikdash, this is what I'm meant to be. This is the person I'm meant to be right now. I've got to finish his introduction. I'm so sorry. Okay, so go to page 4 at the bottom. He just spells this idea out. Again, this is just introduction. We'll go into all these ideas in more detail, and it'll get easier. He basically, we learn from the story of the guy in Leipzig that when you're involved in Avodat Hashem, right, when you pray, say a bracha, live on Shabbat, the world is dead. He says that is the definition of a Torah Jew. Okay? And you learn that out from Shabbat. Wherever you're doing, in the middle of making a Sheyatzah bracha, the world is dead. You're staying Shacharit, the world is dead. I'm in that world, I'm focusing. Okay? How do you get this level? How do we get to this point that we all want to be at, you know? So turn to page 5. And he says like this. He says a person acquires this Shabbat konim al yidei emunah. Now we're going to spend about 3 classes later on the semester discussing the idea of how strongly linked emunah, which none of you have any idea what it is right now. You think you do, but we're going to completely break it down and define it for you in a completely new and refreshing way. But ultimately, just highlight it now, we're going to come back to it. Emunah is the passageway into Shabbat, and actually the passageway out of Shabbat, right? He's defining it as putting your heart that which your mind knows. That's actually the perfect definition. That is the perfect definition of what emunah is. putting you in the heart that which you know and making it part of your belief system, putting it into your heart, into your emotional being. That is what emunah is. Not blind faith. It's actually based upon what you know. It's the exact opposite to how other people define it. Right? The other religions, for example. For us, emunah for us is I know something and now I have to live it. I have to put it to my emotional being. It's from mind into heart. That's actually what emunah is. Okay, we'll see more about that. I'm sorry to make you just a little teaser, but we'll come to it. Okay. He's saying that presence, that ability, which we will define, I promise you, is going to come. That's called faith. That's called emunah. Okay. Emunah is different from bitachon. Bitachon is about the future. Bitachon, we'll see, is about stuff you don't know about. The future, right? I have faith in God. That's for stuff that hasn't happened. Emunah is knowledge of the past and how I emotionally internalize it. It's very, very different. Two very different things. Okay? And this idea of faith, so we're going to discuss, so what's coming up? Upcoming features. We're going to discuss the idea of emunah, which is related to Shabbat. We're going to discuss the idea of kedusha, okay, which is obviously related to Shabbat as well. And we're also going to focus on the idea of Shabbat being, this is going to be the first chapter, we're going to start with this next class, is a matana. Shabbat is a gift. Okay? That's going to be a very, very, very important aspect. Shabbat as the gift, he says, that is the ultimate gift. What is the gift? It's the emunah and kedusha. Okay? There's going to be a lot more to it. A lot more to it. Okay? But that's going to be the basic thing. So the tool itself, meaning, you acquire Pesach by eating matzah. You acquire Sukkot by sitting in the sukkah. You acquire Rosh Hashanah by sounding the shofar. You acquire Yom Kippur by doing teshuvah and fasting. But the fasting helps you do teshuvah. You acquire Shabbat, how? Through emunah. Emunah is going to be the tool. It's a non-physical tool. All the other holidays need something physical, but Shabbat is lemala min hazman. It's above time. And therefore, emunah is going to be the actual tool that you're going to use, and that's what it's going to give you. That is the gift that it's going to give us. It's going to do more for a person than any other holiday in this respect. Okay. So halfway down page 5, let's do this inside. So the Torah tells us, "Ve'varech Elokim et yom hashvi v'kadesh God blessed the seventh day. That's another word, by the way. We're going to spend a couple of classes on this too. Shabbat is all about baracha. You want baracha in your life? Anybody want blessings? Shabbat is going to be it. Okay? Berachat Shabbat. Actually, the first time the word baracha appears in the Torah, anybody know in what it is relating to? No. That's kedusha. The first time we see the word bracha appear in the Bible, it is said in relation. This is a difficult question. If you get it, you're very impressed. Give it a go.
I'm not sure what.
Oh, the
When
stars.
God says it's gonna bracha like Abraham, like children, like
This is pre that, even before Abraham turns up on the scene.
the creation of
No, before that. Oh, Rosh Hashanah isn't until much later. That doesn't come till. That's actually the first mitzvah. Actually, first get to the Jewish people. Nope. Before Abraham, way before Exodus of Egypt.
When he created man, doesn't it say he blessed?
Nope.
Stars
Before
and
then.
Stars and moon.
Nope.
And he made holy.
No. They are actually in the Torah. Tanim Gedolim. They're mentioned actually in the Bible itself, interestingly enough. But that's not for now. That's another class.
When he, oh,
Nope.
When he separated the light and the darkness.
No. No bracha over there. He just separated it.
When he separated the ocean from the
No.
sky.
No, Rosh Hashanah is much later. Rosh Hashanah is that's the first mitzvah of the Jewish people.
Not what you're asking.
Oh,
No,
when
I
he
want the
made
first. No, I
rivers
want to
of
the
Canaan.
first time the word bracha appears in the Torah. That's all. Why am I asking that? Because the first time it appears is where it gets its power from. It's actually something in creation. Hashem blessed a certain creature and gave it a special bracha. I don't know what it is. Which creature did Hashem bless?
Tell us.
The fish. The fish. The dove. The fish in the yam. Why?
You said
Why did Hashem do that? Why did Hashem have to give that? Because there's many predators and people are going to come and start eating all the fish out of the sea. So Hashem gave a special bracha so we could have lots and lots of fish. Lots and lots of fish. First time the word, no. The first time you see the word bracha in the Torah, berach, that shoresh, is in relation to fish. The second time it appears is in relation to Shabbat. I'm jumping ahead a little bit. I just want to give you a little taster, though, of what's to come. Why would that be? Why would that be? Because the word, what does the word bracha mean? When we get there, we'll see. But one idea is bracha means plenty, lots, ribui. Ribui, lots and lots. We need lots of fish. Hashem bless them, extra blessing, because we need lots of them. So we have so many fish in the sea, and only so many elephants, right? And only so many kangaroos, but plenty of different types of fish all through the oceans, okay? So too, Shabbat is barach. That same word is used. It's a lot more than this. But just to give you a teaser, so too we'll see that it has this ability. So that's Vayivarech Elokim et Yom HaShvi. He blessed that day when he blessed it. He gave it the power of ribui, of plenty. Yeah, yeah. We just see evidence of that in the fish, right? I mean, it happens to be, not coincidentally, that we do eat fish on Shabbat. Actually, it's a mitzvah to eat fish on Shabbat. And actually, fish is dal, which is, dalad is 4, gimel is 3, that's 7 as well. There is some relation between fish and Shabbat, but there's different reasons for that. Some Kabbalistic as well. That's not for now. Okay, so it says, God blessed the seventh day, and he made it holy. Okay, so 2 key words there, blessing and holiness. We'll come to that. Shabbat nikra makor bracha. Now Shabbat is called the source of all blessing. And the makor bracha. We sing that on Friday night in short. It is the makor bracha. What does it mean? The source of blessing. So we're going to see in about 2 weeks or so that all blessing in this world, what does that mean? All lots and lots of good things, right, come from Shabbat. Shabbat is the source of all blessing. No Shabbat, no blessing. There must be Shabbat in this world. It must exist. There is no longer Beit HaMikdash. Okay? That's gone. A lot of mitzvot we cannot do, but Shabbat must exist. And remember from last class, because it's the heart and mind of the Jewish people. Once the heart is gone, the person can't live. A person can live without a limb. There are certain mitzvot we don't actually need to still exist as a people, but Shabbat is not one of them. Hainu Shabbat be'etzmutahu, the source of holiness. Ein tzarich limtzom yocheret kedei lizchot ba, ela zochad yom Shabbat. What do you have to do? Right? It itself is holy, and we don't need any specific mitzvah in order to merit it. It just is. Okay? And that's what we're told to zachor. That's another word we have to figure out, because that word is going to appear again and again and again in terms of Shabbat as well. So we're going to see why such a big aspect of Shabbat is based upon memory. You have to remember the Shabbat. Who forgets Shabbat? It's once a week. Hey, you may miss a Jewish holiday, you miss a birthday. But why do you have to remember Shabbat? Why do you have to remember it? What's up with that? So we're going to see the word memory, zachor, it doesn't just mean to remember, it means to live a certain way, a certain thing, you do certain things. And we're going to define the idea of memory, how memory plays a big, big, big role in Shabbat. Yes, it's exactly what we're saying. Shabbat is, yes, it's going to be an analogy for Hashem, and it's going to be, we're going to see, it's going to be the end of the course, it's going to be the entry point into Olam Haba. Actually, we're going to see it's almost impossible to get into Olam Haba without at least one Shabbat. Hence the expression, just one Shabbos, and we'll all be free. Shabbat is a metaphor for Olam Haba. It's Me'en Olam Haba, we say, right? So we're going to see it's going to be that. It's going to be for creation. We're related to creation. We're related to Yetziat Mitzrayim. We're related to the Matan Torah. And we're going to relate to it's historical, which is why Shabbat goes back to the beginning of creation. All of the mitzvot begin at Har Sinai. Where does Shabbat begin? At creation. Because it's bigger than any one mitzvah. It encapsulates all of Jewish history. You see that? Right? Seventh day, the world's created, we got Shabbat already. It doesn't say seventh day we got tzitzit, or giving tzedakah. How does Shabbat turn up at the beginning of creation, and we have to wait 2,448 years for the rest of the mitzvah? I mean, some turn up along the way, because they're needed. But Shabbat is bigger than everything. We're going to see it's equal to all the other mitzvot. You keep Shabbat, is you're keeping all 612 of the other mitzvot. It's bigger than any one person, bigger than any one time, bigger than any one place. It's above all. That's the introduction I want to give you. Yeah? Marvelous. Marvelous. So you have to remember. Tiskor v'ata sichtad ma Shabbat. You have to remember Shabbat all the time. You live Shabbat all the time. But they happen to be, this is real. People do this today. I know people who host a lot of people over Shabbat. That becomes their mitzvah day. I have a few friends who do this, close friends. And literally they start thinking about next Shabbat on Sunday. Preparing, cooking. They literally live their entire week in preparation for Shabbat because they have a lot of guests and stuff, a lot going on, They're constantly in that world. Tremendous mitzvah. They're living Shabbat all the time. You don't actually have to do that in order to do this, but just show that it is possible. What we're meant to do is remember Shabbat every single day. That's a mitzvah. There are things you have to remember every day as a Jew. There's like 6 of them. Actually, at the end of Shacharit, there's a list of them. To enjoy a Shabbat, Oneg Shabbat is a mitzvah, yeah. We'll see Oneg is going to be a very, very important aspect of this. Yeah. Actually, Oneg, enjoyment, we'll see, is going to be what Shabbat is called. Shabbat is called Oneg. The correct English Shabbat, Oneg, enjoyment. It should be pleasurable. You should try to enjoy Shabbat. Okay, the Ramban says, heaven forbid that a person, this is Kabbalah, I don't know what he's saying, if you rearrange his letters, you get nega, which is a blemish. I told you this already. He says you don't want to go there. You want to go to Oneg. So I have to discuss that as well. We're going to double click on all these ideas later on. Okay? And that's why he says there's a mitzvah to prepare something on Shabbat. Yeah? What do we get out of this? So he says, sorry, page 5, second paragraph down, sof, and in the end, as mama kablim, so what are we getting through this gift? As HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're getting God in your life. Ultimately, Shabbat, we're going to see, is the fastest, quickest, clearest way that gets you to become a spiritual person, which helps us answer the first question we started the course with, and said, why do we define a Jew by their Shomer Shabbat? Why do we say, oh, is that person observant? Are they Shomer Shabbos? Why do we use that as the definition? We don't use any other. We don't say, as I said, like a matzah eater, a sukkah dweller, charity giver. Are they Shomer Shabbat? Because Shabbat is what you are. You become it. Right? Why? Because Shabbat is God. It's God Day. That is the best definition for what Shabbat is. It is God Day. It's not me day like the other holidays, because I need Pesach, I need Sukkot, I need Yom Kippur. It's all about God. And if you do that, and you accept, then God becomes everything to you. Mikol Makom, nevertheless, bottom page 5, nearly finished. Ooh, the light at the end of the tunnel is coming up. Marvelous. Mikol Makom, he says, Yesh mitzvah miyuchedet kedei lischot Shabbat. There actually is, and this is going to be very interesting, there actually is a mitzvah specifically in order to merit Shabbat. Okay? And what is that? V'haya b'yom hashishi v'hechinu. Preparation. Preparation. Now, usually, there is no mitzvah in preparing for a mitzvah. I'll say that again. Usually, there is no mitzvah in preparing for a mitzvah. Let's say I prepare for Sukkot, okay? That's a nice thing to do, but you don't get the mitzvah of Sukkot by building a sukkah. It's a good thing to do, and maybe a hechsher mitzvah, it's preparation, but it's not the actual mitzvah itself. You've got to sit in the sukkah itself. You don't get the mitzvah by buying tefillin, okay? You get tefillin, you get the mitzvah by putting on tefillin. You don't get the mitzvah by taking money out of the bank. You get the money by taking that money and give it to a poor person. So the preparation for a mitzvah is important, but it's never the thing itself. When Shabbat comes, something really unusual happens. Most people are not aware of this. And according to some opinions, we'll see it's going to be the end of the course. God, we've reached there. There are opinions that say that the preparation for Shabbat is somehow greater than Shabbat itself, and itself is a Torah mitzvah. Now, why would that be? Why would that be? Why would Friday preparation, right? Cleaning your shoes, getting a suit, getting your shirts, preparing your hair, I don't know what you're ever doing. Right, buying the food, that becomes its own mitzvah. Not only is it mitzvah, that is the whole point. That is the whole point. It becomes its own thing. This is halacha, by the way. I'm telling you, this is actual halacha. And some people will see it is a doraita. You get a Torah mitzvah, you put the cholent up. You think you're in the kitchen? You're keeping Shabbat on a Friday afternoon. What are you talking about? Why would that be? I haven't done it. It's not even Shabbat yet. How can I get a mitzvah for keeping Shabbat? Not even Shabbat. It's Friday. Doesn't make sense. It's going to, though. Yeah.
Maybe because they're two gangs, like on Shabbat, you're required to, like you're required to keep it, you're not required to go to the market during the weekend, keep it, it's being time out of the day.
You're right. It's a beautiful thing. But you do that, you say that with Sukkah. I build the Sukkah, took my time out to build a Sukkah.
If you're done working during the week,
But why would it become a Torah mitzvah? You're right. That's exactly what I'm doing. But why would that preparation for Shabbat? I clean my shoes on Friday. Suddenly you're there. Okay. So we're going to see that it is not only a nice thing to do and a necessary thing to do, it is the thing. Okay. So I'll give you the analogy and then we'll just close this introduction because I want to get going on the main course eventually next class. And it goes like this. Shabbat is a metaphor for Olam Haba, for the next world. Okay? Actually, one of the names for the next world is Yom Shekulu Shabbat, the world that is all Shabbat. Okay? It is the world that is all Shabbat. So 1 second. If you're telling me that, would that not mean that the preparation I do before Shabbat is actually like being in this world, right? Are you with me? Erev Shabbat gets you ready for Shabbat. So now we're saying that Erev Shabbat isn't just Erev Shabbat, it's Erev Olam Haba. What's Erev Olam Haba? Olam Hazeh, this world. So now we're saying that Olam Haba is actually Shabbat, right, equals Shabbat. Yom Shekula Shabbat, Me'ein Olam Haba, referred to Shabbat as that, a piece of the next world. Now we're saying, you know what? So Erev Shabbat, which is a Friday, now becomes, what? The preparation, Olam Hazeh. It becomes this world. It becomes this world. A person, and that's the statement we just said, that's a very famous statement from the Gemara, which we'll go into. If you prepare on Erev Shabbat, you get to eat on Shabbat. If you prepare yourself in this world, you get to eat of your mitzvot in the next world. That is the idea.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah. A person, Mishatarach Erev Shabbat, Ochel Shabbat. If you prepare before Shabbat, you get to eat on Shabbat. Because you don't make cholent on Friday, you can't cook on Shabbat. It's all done. Shabbat is a world of what? Of I can't do. What's Olam Haba? I can't do. Whatever it is, whatever I made myself in this world becomes my next world. Whatever you do on Erev Shabbat becomes Shabbat. It is the outer preparation. It is the thing itself. And you're rewarded for you doing this world, so you're rewarded on Erev Shabbat as well. You hear that? Yeah? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You seeing the connecting reality over here? And that is the gift of Shabbat. And that's why, turn to page 6, and we'll do 6 and 7, we'll finish. Aval Tshuva, he says, the answer is Shabbat is a gift. We'll see why later on, next class. Hashem is giving it to us. And that's why you have to make esek with Shabbat. You have to make Shabbat into your business. It becomes your life. Just the day of. Hopefully you're getting this. Shabbat is not about, taking time off. As people say, Shabbat's here, I can do nothing. It's not Shabbat off, it's a Shabbat on. Right? Your entire week, this is how I like to depict it. Many people think, your week starts there, right? Sunday, right? You're recovering. And then you got school, it's Monday. You get down here, it's like Tuesday. And you end up down here, right? You're like a schmutter. And in the week, I'm dead. Right? People say it. It's like a scale down. Actually, and I'm going to prove this to you quite beautifully, it's the other way around. You start over here on Sunday, right? And Yom Rishon. And then you build your way up. And the top, the peak, the pinnacle of Shabbat, you're working your way up towards it. And what's fascinating proof for this is, how do we say Sunday in Judaism? Yom Rishon, le Shabbat. Yom Rishon, le Shabbat. Monday is Yom Sheni Shabbat. Like Tuesday is Yom Shlishi, Yom Revi. They're not given names. They're just numbers. They're just numbers. How do we say the weekday in Hebrew? How do we say the weekday in Hebrew?
Yom.
Now, Yom is a day. Shavuot is a week. Weekdays. The weekdays are referred to as, you have Shabbat and you have Chol. Chol, right? Amavdom and Chodesh Lachol. Chol, you know what I'm talking about? Heard that word before? Write it down. Chol. Chol is a weekday, right? Amavdom and Chodesh Lachol, we said Havdalah. What's Chol? What does Chol actually mean? You should have... What? What does it... No. What does it literally mean? Sand. Yeah, it means sand. Why would the days of the week be called sand? What is sand? Sand is actually individual little crystallized realities that have no relation one to another. You just pack them together, you get to walk on them. But there's nothing there. They're just like they're just like numbers. Yom Rishon, Sheni, Shlishi. The only day of the week in Judaism, right, that has a name is Shabbat, because you're working up to that point. Yom Rishon and Shabbat. You see, I use Hebrew. We're going to do a lot of this, by the way. A lot of Hebrew words are going to reveal something. So Chol is weekday, but literally means sand because it's not related to each other. It's just like lumped together, right? Sundays are related to Tuesday. It's just days of the week. Shabbat is the only one with a name. So you're counting up. Are you counting up? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Shabbat.
Why is it sand?
Because sand is like separate realities. They're not connected one to another. It seems like they are, but they're not. There's no relationship. It's just like grains that, like all these weekdays right through the year, just like grains of sand, you know? Kind of, there's nothing attached to it. But Shabbat is a real thing. It's something.
I have a question.
Okay, I've got to finish it. 1 second. Sorry. So let me just finish off and we'll take questions. Okay? So you make Shabbat, it's your business. It becomes the pinnacle of your week because that's what I'm looking forward to. Right? So you go on vacation, right? You're counting, well, you count down, we count up. Towards that moment, you get away. That's what you're doing every single day of the week. That's how a Jew lives. Right? We don't do that with other holidays. We don't count now, oh, Yom Kippur, you know? It's like 55 shopping days, like Yom Kippur, whatever. You don't do that. Right? You build it, you count up towards Shabbat, you know? It becomes your esek, your business. Right? La'asos is Shabbat. That's what the Torah says. We're going to see that verse later on. Last, you have to make Shabbat. La'asot, you've got to make something out of it. Therefore, he says, all week we think about Shabbat. We go down the street, see nice food. He brings down the Gemara, talks about it. And by the Gemara, there's this long list of great rabbis that would do seemingly mundane things in honor of Shabbat. They would make sure they would take a pot off, they would clean the floor, they would do, you've got to la'asot to Shabbat. And the preparation for Shabbat, as we said, we're going to see later on at the end of the course, is itself something very, very, very important. Right? You're showing great honor to Shabbat by doing that. Right? There's no greater honor. We go to the bathhouse, we shower, we prepare ourselves. All these things are mitzvah in and of themselves, unlike any other area of Judaism. Okay? And then he mentions the song thing. He says something amazing. The songs we sing on Shabbat, even they're different. Right? We say V'hisha Amda on Pesach, right? Samachta b'chagecha. Right? We sing about things that happen on that day or things that exist on that day. When Shabbat comes, we sing Shabbos, Shabbos, Shabbos. We give it a personality. We say Shabbos is coming, Shabbos is going. Malava Malka, we're escorting the queen. Right? We give it a human personality. It's like a real thing. We relate to Shabbat as a person. We mentioned that already. This is the source for it. Okay? So on Shabbat, the entire world is batel. Everything is nullified. Right? Everything is batel. Everything is nullified on that day. I'm just in this world. Clothing is different. We talk differently. We think differently. We do different things. A lot of things we don't do. And that's how we make Shabbat a special day. Okay? And that's what Chazal say beautifully. And we'll see why this is. Shabbat, whoever enjoys Shabbat, enjoy it. It's not enough just to do. You have to try to enjoy it. Notim Lab Mishal Libot will give you all your requests. Whatever you want, you get. Shabbat is the ultimate bracha. Anything good you want, Shabbat will give that to you. Shabbat has that power. Whoever follows Shabbat according to the law, mochlen law. Even your worst sins are wiped away. Remember we spoke about that last class, right? Shabbat, Shuv, Yom Kippur, Teshuvah. It's going to wipe away all the bad stuff you did. Now, would you prefer 25 hours of fasting and standing in synagogue? Or hanging out with family, singing, eating, enjoying? tell you what I prefer, you know. So Shabbat does that for you, right? Even if you are over the Avodah Zarah, if you worship idols, like the generation of Enosh, like the worst case of idol worship, Shabbat comes, Mochanlah, it can wipe everything away. It can restart your entire life for you. Okay? And that's when he finishes, that's why Shabbat is one of the names of Hashem. Right? That is the personality. It is one of the names of Hashem.
Did we say why it's characteristics?
Because it represents Kodesh Baruch Hu, represents Hashem. It's a real living thing. It's an active thing. You have a relationship with Shabbat. You don't have a relationship with a shofar, I hope. You don't have a relationship with matzah, right? You gotta eat the matzah, you do the mitzvah. But you have a relationship with this day, with Shabbat itself. Very, very unusual. Very, very unusual. You relate to it like you relate to a person, right? And people become Shabbat. Thoughts, questions? That makes sense. We said we threw a lot out there. I know, but we're gonna go through all of it again. Yeah.
Okay, that like you're counting up.
Yeah.
I feel like you're counting down, and then when Shabbat comes, it lifts you up, like more like that.
Okay.
Can I say that? Like, I don't know.
Shabbat is meant to revigorate you.
Yeah.
And there is, by the way, there is an aspect of physical rest as well. One of the reasons we keep Shabbat, we'll see, one of the benefits of Shabbat, which we'll see, there's a number of them, right, besides the ones we listed over here, is that Shabbat helps you have physical rest. Right? Hashem says, you worked hard, you get to rest.
So that's like, that's not physical rest.
That's physical rest as well. I'm included, it's also physical rest.
Okay.
It's also going to be a chance to do certain things you don't usually get to do. Right? You get a chance to learn Torah, because during the week you're too busy. You know, unless you're at Stone College, you get credit for this. Amazing, man, right? So nice. I want to go back to college. I want to enjoy it so much more. Right? Not that college, this college. Right? You get to build up your physical rest, emotional, spirit. It's got a lot. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. Okay. We finished a few minutes early, no problem. We'll stop over there. Next class, we will, God willing, begin our first chapter. Is that exciting?
Yeah.
That's better. Okay. Have a great and successful week.
Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom.